Hello! Welcome to a new video. My name is Nicole and this is my new booktube channel, Galaxy Stories. So, today, as you can tell from the title, we're going to be discussing my latest read, which is Bloodmarked by Tracy Deonn. How can I describe this book? It was amazing. I absolutely loved it. It's probably gonna end up being one of my favorite reads of this year. And yeah, that's all I can say to promote it. If you don't know what this is about, this is the second book in the Legendborn cycle. The first book being Legendborn, this is the second book. This is about Brianna Matthews, who went to a pre-university college program for really bright 16-year-olds alongside her best friend. And on campus, she discovers this student society centered around King Arthur and his knights, and just the round table in general. Apparently, the descendants of King Arthur and of his 12 most important knights continue to inherit their powers and continue to fight demons to protect the world. There's also the descendants of Marlins. It's really cool. And besides this fantasy element, this book also deals with grief, with intergenerational trauma. Brianna is a black girl, and you can see all of her frustrations at the way that black people are treated in modern day society. It's honestly just an amazing book overall, both for the social commentary and for the fantasy elements. I really love all these characters and I can't recommend it more, but if you haven't read even the first book, I can't tell you much more about the second, because the second book deals with the aftermath of the first book and about, I don't know, I forgot to mention, Brianna also discovered that she herself has some mysterious powers, and this book explores more about how she got those powers and what do they mean exactly for her ancestors. It's complicated and not that nice. But yeah, that's really all I can say without spoilers. So if you haven't read these books yet, go read them right this moment, and then you can come back and we can talk about them. If you really don't care about spoilers, then you're welcome to stay. But anyway, this is your last warning to leave. Now, bye, and see you when you have read the book. Okay, now, for the people who have read this book, can I talk about the ending? I know you don't start a book review with the ending, but it's just that I stayed up a few nights ago to finish this. I couldn't put it down, and just like everything that happened in the end was wild. Like, you have Arthur possessing Brianna, you have Samhain turning into a demon, you discover that the King of Shadows, the Shadow King, is actually Erebus. Like, I did not see that coming. Maybe I was not paying enough attention because I focused on classes as well, but I was not expecting for the Shadow King to turn out to be Erebus. I did notice that he was acting a bit different from the other seneschals, and he was a bit nicer towards Brianna, but I would have never made the connection to the Shadow King. And yeah, it really surprised me. Also, I have to say that I first misread the name. Like, my eyes sort of skipped over the page, and instead of reading Verilian, or whatever his last name was, I read Valak. I don't know why, and I was like, what? And I read Erebus, and I was even more confused, and then I saw that it was actually Erebus Verilian. Yeah, I don't know why I read it. As you can see, I was suspecting Valak of being the Shadow King more than I suspected Erebus of being the Shadow King. But yeah, I was not expecting that. And now I have even more questions, such as, how much of Brianna's powers come from the Shadow King? How much is it only the root? How much is normal root that other practitioners such as Patricia or Mariah had, and how much is it just simply Shadow King's power? Like, I know that they have this thing with the powers of being bargain, borrow, or steal. So I guess in some way it is still the Shadow King's power, because, like, there's this thing that I was thinking after I finished the book. There is the part where Brianna breaks Selwyn's cuffs, and we know that void cuffs can only be broken by the person who cast them, who put them on. And could Brianna break them just because the root is somehow different, or could she break them because she has her root coming from the Shadow King? Like, should I have found that sus? Because I just thought, okay, so the root is this cool. But is it? Like, could Patricia or Mariah done that? Honestly, I'm not sure. I feel like it might tie in actually to the fact that Brianna's powers came from the Shadow King, and since Erebus put those cuffs on Selwyn, that's why she could break them. Which, yeah, I really should have seen that coming, now that I come to think of it. But of course I didn't. So, yeah, and now speaking of Selwyn, this book really just added trauma on that poor guy. In the last book, in Legendborn, and during this book as well, I kept on saying, someone give this boy a hug, he deserves it, he deserves all the happiness in the world. He's had such a terrible life. People mistrusting him, and some of that mistrust is of course understandable considering him doing what he's doing, like mesmerizing Brianna. I don't agree with him on that front, but overall it was just terrible thing after terrible thing after terrible thing for him. In this entire book, I was saying, take him to Natasha Kim, take him to his mother. She's the only Marlin that we know of who managed to live outside of her oath, and I'm sure she could help him. And then in the end, they actually take him to Natasha, and I hope that he's gonna be fine. I know she said I make no such promise or whatever, but I'm 99% sure he's gonna be fine, and we're just gonna see him in the next book swooping in at the last moment to save the day or make a cool entrance, something like that, and he's gonna be fine. I don't know what does she mean exactly by helping him, if she will also sort of make the transformation that's already happened disappear, or will he keep the claws? Will he still look like he looks now, or will he go back to looking like his old self? I'm not sure about that. I mean, it would be cool either way. Like, the claws can be cool. But I guess we'll have to wait for the next book to actually see that. But I'm pretty sure he's gonna be okay. Come on. You can't just put him through all of the stuff he went through in the past books and not give him a bit of happiness in the end, right? Right? It'd be too tragic. But now, let's leave Selwyn aside and address the actual elephant in the room, which is Brianna's choices that she made at the end of the book. Do I agree with them? Absolutely not. Like, she literally went with a complete stranger who has sort of tried to attack her, and she knows he's going to try to kill her, and left behind everything that she knew. That's never a good idea. But I can understand sort of where she came from and how she ended up making that choice, which I suppose wasn't easy. But yeah, because this entire book, I've talked about Selwyn, about him getting trauma over trauma. Brianna as well, and she also had to cope with intergenerational trauma that came down the line from Vera to her. And it just, sometimes it gets to that breaking point. Like, first of all, she has her real life problems with the regents who won't accept her just because she's black, and because her existence proves that the people they idolized were not their fault. They really can't accept her, and because they are tyrants in power, they do what a tyrant in power does and change the laws to suit themselves. Like, they attacked her during the ride, they drug her, they repeatedly try to erase her memories so that they can interrogate her. They interrogate her for 3 days straight. They try to run experiments on her. That's traumatizing. And leaving all that aside, at that moment when she goes to confront them after those 3 days, I really thought that she might have a chance because these people are obsessed with the rules, with the laws. The line is law. That's what they keep saying. And when Brianna told him that, I was like, I mean, yeah, she has a point. She's right. Like, at least for that, you should accept her. And then they don't because they're just that bad people. And they're willing to change the laws just so that they come out on top. And the world is as they want it to be. And this just... First of all, the parallels with the real life. Second of all, just plain mean. And these are plain bad people, and I hated every one of them. Okay, and then if you leave aside the Regents, you also have her friends, William, Alice, Selwyn, and they are well-intentioned. They do want the best for her. But the thing is, they didn't really understand how much Brianna was struggling with being the scion of Arthur, also being the last descendant of Vera, and all the pressures that come with this, and her just wanting to help people and actually understand her role and what she's meant to do. Also save Nicholas. Like, she felt that she could do something useful and actually save Nicholas, and they didn't understand. And they all voted on them playing low when they were attacked once. And it's just... I know that they did it out of good intentions, but to Brianna, I feel like it felt that they undervalued her, and she hates being treated like a damsel in distress, and that's what they did. So I can also see how there might be some conflict going on there that again led to her making the choices that she did in the end. And then, if you leave aside the real world, we talk about Nicholas later. If you leave aside all this, you also have to go to the ancestral plane. And then you first have Vera and her descendants all the way to Brianna, the 8 women that she talks to. And everyone keeps telling her that Vera herself tells her that she made the sacrifice that she made so that, and all of her descendants made the sacrifices, like one daughter at a time. That whole thing was for her, for Brie, to not have to run. And as Vera herself tells her, she is the tip of their spear. They did what they did so that she would no longer have to run, but all of these, well, good intention again, just put so much pressure on Brianna. Like, she has to sort of live up to the expectations of all these people, and she has powers that she knows she could use and maybe help herself, but no one actually tells her how to use them. Also, they know that if they use their power, something bad comes, and just because mothers die before their daughters grow old enough to actually understand enough of their powers, no one actually knows what the deal is exactly with the Shadow King. No one knows. I don't think they knew that their powers came from him, except for Vera. So, like, they don't understand their powers. They are scared of them because that bad man appears when they use them. But now Brianna has to use them, and no one will tell her how. And again, that's another frustration to add to the list. Like, she's supposed to, I don't know, live up to them, and she trusts them. She knows they want the best for her, but that's not enough. And their help is not enough for her. And you also have Arthur, who's manipulating her, who is the one that made her feel like she had no control of her powers. And he is also the reason why Brianna is so, I don't know, unstable. That part at the end when he takes control of her body, that's going to mess up with anyone. And the way like he's so gradually manipulated her, like he pretending he wanted to help her understand her powers and control her powers, which is what Brianna wanted, and that's why she trusted him. Because on the other side, you have Vera not telling her much, and at least from Arthur she could learn something. And she goes through those memories, and again she liked it because she could talk to Nicholas like that. And in the end, she misplaced her faith, I guess. And that also added to her not trusting her instincts, not trusting herself to make the right choices. Yeah, so all of that combined with people on the outside not trusting her and not appreciating her for who she is, just because of her skin color, just because of her different pasts. Also, inside of her, these two factions, pretty much, like the line of Vera and Arthur arguing with one another and coming up with very different ideologies. That was a turning point, and I can see why all of that frustration accumulated led her burning down the ancestral plane and all of the streams. Now she's in a sort of bad place because she really has no advice, like she left alone with the Shadow King. Like, you know, sometimes the counsel of your parents and grandparents might be annoying, but it's still well-intentioned and well-meaning, and you should at least listen to it if you don't want to follow it. But now she doesn't even have that. She's just alone. She's gonna have to make her own choices, and it's good that she recognized that her power is her own and no one can tell her how to use it. And I like the self-empowerment, but still a bit of advice, especially in her circumstances, from well-intentioned people would not hurt, because the Shadow King is going to make her powerful. I don't doubt that, but he will also attempt to murder her and attempt again to murder her until he can absorb her power. So yeah, she's not in the best of places, to put it lightly. But I really can't wait in the next book to see her dynamic though with Airbus. I think it's going to be really interesting, this whole, I know that you're going to try to kill me, but I also want to get strong. I'm gonna have to get strong so that at the end I can devour your power. Like, I feel like it's not the same thing, but it sort of reminds me a bit of Death Note, you know, with the deal with Light and Ryuk. Like, you know how Light gets the Death Note, Ryuk's Death Note, but he knows that once he writes a name in that notebook, in the end, Ryuk is gonna be the one writing his own name in the same notebook. And that's how he's going to die, like he's literally signing his death. And I feel like it's sort of similar for Brianna. Again, I don't think she's actually going to die. She will sort of stop Airbus somehow. But she's alone and she is with someone that wants to raise her like a pig for slaughter at the moment. Yeah, I can't wait to read about how Zero, where is he going in the first place, and how Zero gonna, I don't know, interact in the next book. Yeah, other than that, we can talk a bit about Nicholas as well, I guess, because what was up with him in this book? I will admit that in Legendborn, I didn't really care about Nicholas. Like, he seemed that, like, the standard love interest, chosen one, blonde, white boy, uninteresting. I don't know, he just didn't really stick out to me. But now, with his whole separate arc, I'm quite curious about where he's going to go. Like, okay, at the beginning he was with Isaac and his father, and he didn't have a choice but to go with them. But then, after his father dies, which, again, I can see how that might be hard to process, he doesn't go with Brianna and Selwyn. I don't understand exactly what was going on through his head at that time. I can see why it might have been a mess. But she just left on his own. Like, where did he go? What did he do? I'm confused about that. But on the other hand, I like that during the course of this book, he was talking to Brianna through the blood walks. I found that really cool, how she could blood walk through Arthur's memories and then through this whole spell of eternity, see the parallels between the memories and the real world, and that's how she could talk through Lancelot to Nicholas. I thought that was really cool. From the first moment she did it, I was wondering if she could also do this with Marlene and talk to Selwyn like that, and then she did at some point, and then we got the balcony scene, which the balcony scene was just really interesting, and I'm really curious about how this will go down in the third book, because as I said, at this moment I don't even know what to call this. They're a trio, they're a sort of love triangle, and I use this in the actual sense of love triangle, like parallel. You know how when you say love triangle, it's usually a girl that has to pick between two boys, but that's actually an angle, because like you have the girl, you have boy 1 and boy 2, she has to pick between them, but then between the boys there's nothing, so there's no line, so there's no triangle. But here there is something between Selwyn and Nicholas. Like, I'm not saying it's romantic, because they both Selwyn did have a crush on Nick when they were younger, but he did admit himself that that was a crush on a different person. The Nicholas that he had a crush on maybe never even existed. And Nicholas, again, I don't think he sees Selwyn romantically, but on the other hand, the connections they have is very deep, and I don't think it's out of the question for this to end in some sort of everything. I don't know, we'll see, because it's either that or one of them dies. Which, okay, maybe that's what's gonna happen, and one of them dies and then the others are gonna mourn that person and stay together. I hope it's not Selwyn that dies. I don't want Nick to die, but between Selwyn and Nicholas, I'm gonna have to go with Selwyn to survive. But we'll see. But anyway, so I don't know, I liked it. We were both complimenting her in Welsh and then agreeing with one another on the compliment. I used Google Translate, and it was very how should I put this? I liked it. I liked their dynamic, their interaction on the balcony a lot. And yeah, at the moment, all three of them are going on separate dark paths. Like, you have the book pretty much left Brianna going with the Shadow King to who knows where. You have Nicholas, who just lost his father, and I don't know, he's not really that close to anyone, I feel like, at the moment. Then you have Selwyn. He literally sacrificed his humanity for Brianna. I'm not saying Nick hasn't sacrificed himself stuff for Brianna, but I feel like that doesn't compare to what Selwyn did for Bri. He made wrong calls with the Mesmers, but overall, how much he cares for Bri is just amazing, and I ship them a lot. Like, the moment when she is stabbed, and she's dying there, and Selwyn just creates microscopical constructs to keep her alive for hours until William gets to them, and he's also dying at that time because he's doing so much of his power. And it was, how can you not ship them? How can you not want them? How can you not want them to end up together? Like, Nicholas is a great person, I'll give him that, but I feel like Selwyn sacrificed so much more for Brianna, and did so much more for her that I can't help but want them to end up together. If we have to choose, maybe we won't have to choose. I don't know what's gonna happen. But yeah, I don't know what else to say. I really like this book. As you can see, I'm very invested in the whole romance aspect. I like the magic. I like the story, the plot twist, and I can't wait to get the third book. I have no idea when it's gonna come out because it doesn't even appear on Goodreads the last time I checked. And I can read it right now. I want to know what happens next. I can't wait to read it. But anyway, leaving that aside, this book was awesome. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. And yeah, it's definitely going in my top favorite books of this year. That was all from me, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and see you around for other ones. Bye!